Okay, now we're going to talk about what are called measures. Measures used to be called something else previously, but I think Microsoft has settled on measures now. Measure is like a calculated column, except that it is not a column, it is a formula that you store. And then the formula will be evaluated in the pivot table based on the filter context, which what is the row filter and what is the column. So if you have year in the columns and months in the rows, then the particular month and particular year, and that's where the measure will be, that filter context will be applied to the measure, and then on the fly the computation is made. Okay, as opposed to calculated field where the field is static, because that value for each row is computed and stored. Okay, as opposed to in measure, okay, the formula is stored and the formula is evaluated only when you use it, and wherever you're using, and that particular filter context will be used for evaluating the measure. Okay, so there is a fundamental difference between these two, and that's very, very important. Okay. Now first let me show you how to compute, how to set up a measure in that. So there are several ways in which you can do it. One is to, from a pivot table. So if you already have a pivot table, so we're using the data model. Okay, so let's say that we're going to create it right here, and so here is our data table. So suppose we want to create a new measure in this table. Okay, so right click and you see add measure. Okay, so that would open a window. Now you can enter the name for this. So that's a table in which the measure will be created. You can create a measure name and then a description for what it is. So for you to later on come back and not get completely lost as to what these measures mean. And then you put the formula here. Okay, and then you can set up a format for that formula, for the result. Whatever result that you get from the batch measure, so if it is percentage, then you can select a percentage format like here. Okay, so decimal number, you can use percentage, if it's currency or whatever, or if it is a Boolean variable, true or false. So once you set up the format in this window, then that format will be used whenever you use that measure in a pivot table. So you don't have to keep changing or reformatting it. So you format it in one place and that format is available to you throughout. Okay. So this is one way of creating a measure from the pivot table, or you can create from here, it's also from here, Power Pivot. So right next to manage, you see measures. So, and then click new measure. Once again, that will open up the same window and you can set up the measure. Now, one more way of creating a measure is to simply type it, and this bottom part of the data model window is called calculation area or calculation window. Okay, and you can start typing. So type a name for the calculated field. Suppose we want to calculate total sales, right? So just start typing total sales, right? Now for measures, what you need to do is to put colon equal to. Okay, that's the syntax that we have to use. So when you do it in this fashion, you have to do colon equal to. If you go to the other two methods that I showed where you have a window, then it's automatic. Okay. Colon equal to, and then you can type your function that you want. So here we want sum of sales amount, right? Sales, if you type sales, then that gives you, okay, there it is. Sales amount, close parenthesis, enter. So now we have created a measure, and right now there is no filter context, and therefore what you see there is the total of all the rows of data, and there are some 60,398 rows, and this gives us the total for the entire data set. Okay. Oh, so we can, suppose we want to manage this. Yeah. Right click and do format. So now you can set up a format for this, like in the window method of creating measures, you have the format right there to set it up. Okay, so here you right click and do a format, and you can set up a format, and it gives you the format right there. Okay, let's create one more measure, and we'll do it from here. New measure. Okay, we'll change. So this is we change the table to fact internet sales. Measure name is, say, profit. Okay, and we want the profit to be sum of margin. Okay, so now check formula, no errors, set up format, and click OK. So now we have the second measure, and once again it gives you the total for the entire table because there is no filter context. So see here it is. Is right there. Now the total sales is here. You can, I think you can move it. But anyway, so let's do one more, and we'll do it from here. Click add measure. Now since we right click the table is automatically selected, and let's say profit percent. Right? Profit percent is, so now we are going to use the two measures that we have already used. Right? Profit, okay, that is a measure that we created. Okay, divided by total sales, that is also a measure that we created. So here is an example of creating a measure using other measures. Okay, so you can create measures using the columns in the data as well as using measures that we have defined ourselves. Okay, now this is percentage, so let's select number, say percentage, and say 1 decimal place. Click OK. So now we have the three, so now we can use these three measures in so suppose if we bring in here in rows, so we have the 4 years and the profit measure, and so we want sales here, and then the profit percentage. So now you see that the measures are now evaluated based on the filter context. So the filter context here in the pivot table is here. So 2001, all of that is summed. Okay, 2002, all of those are summed. Now for the percentage, Okay, you need to understand. Suppose if I bring in the margin percentage here. Okay, so we did a margin percentage here. Okay, so now margin percentage sum. Okay, see what this is. Why is there a difference? Okay, even if I change this to, instead of sum, suppose if I say average. Okay, you see that the average is different, and the reason for that is the margin percentage is calculated for each row, and then you're taking an average of those percentages, and that's different. The denominator is different now. That's different from the percentage profit, where the profit is summed for all of the particular year and all of the sales is summed, and then you're dividing profit by sales. So you're computing the percentage only one time in the case of profit percentage. Okay, whereas in the margin, you're computing the margin percentage for each row and then taking an average of that, which is different.